In a magical forest, Maria, a baby unicorn, played with the local animals. She was chasing a rabbit when she suddenly heard her mother call. The rabbit claims that it's not her mother, but she still insists on going. She follows the voice to a ruined church where monkey-looking creatures called simians watch her from above. As she slowly approaches the altar, it is revealed to be a sinister, formless monster that tries to swallow her. She manages to escape outside and runs back to the forest. Meanwhile, Drill Sergeant Ironstrike trains new recruits at the Teddy Bear Military Love Camp. He makes them do drills to instill discipline and prepare them to face their worst enemy. Later that night, the recruits pamper themselves when Bluey bullies his brother Tubby for being ugly and fat. Bluey declares he is the most beautiful, especially with his aquamarine blue eyes. But Snuggle objects and claims he has dark circles under his eyes that he covers with makeup. Humiliated, Bluey pounced on him in a fit of rage, but Coco stopped him before things got out of hand. Bluey attacks him from behind, but Coco sees through it and knocks him down, proving he is better than him. He runs away in tears, but not before claiming his actions have consequences. Bluey cries his eyes out after being humiliated in front of everyone. El Padre, the army's priest, finds him weeping and asks what happened. Bluey claims that no one understands him when he only wants to be the best soldier. The priest claims that to be the best, he needs determination and a reason to believe. He then gives Bluey a copy of their sacred book, where he discovers the prophecy. According to their doctrine, when the Chosen One drinks the blood of the last unicorn, he shall become a beautiful and eternal being to which God will return to the lost paradise. Since then, Bluey has become obsessed with becoming the Chosen One. The next day, their training continues, and Coco proves to be the best of the group. Ironstrike claims that he won't be with them forever and names Coco their leader, to which everyone rejoices except Bluey. The over-competitive Bluey walks out and is reminded of the time he discovered that his parents were splitting up. One time, he follows his mother to the forest and witnesses her meeting with another man. Since then, he has grown to loathe his mother for leaving them for another man. Watching the training, Captain Snout worries that their recruits are the worst they've had. Colonel Otto claims they would be perfect for the mission, as losing them wouldn't impact the army. Ironstrike meets with the military leaders as requested. Captain Snout informs him that his team has been chosen for Operation Missing Bird. He explains that they will enter the Magic Forest to search for the lone owl group, which has been reported missing. Ironstrike worries that his team is not ready yet, but Colonel Otto pressures him and claims they expect great things from them. He reminds him that this is his last chance at a promotion. The next day, the recruits prepare to head out, when Snuggle complains that Tubby will be joining them. Ironstrike claims that although Tubby may be fat, they will need a pack mule to carry their stuff. Their leaders send them off with an encouraging speech, during which they promptly return to town to say their goodbyes. It was said that God created the magical forest and its animals in his image and likeness. All animals lived in prosperity until one day, the teddy bears found the sacred book in a church. With it, the bears gained knowledge, progress, morals, and laws, creating their own civilization. The bears felt superior to the other animals, having gained knowledge. They then cultivate the land and cut down trees, but the other animals worry they're destroying the forest. The unicorns retaliated, and after defeating them, they exiled the bears from the forest, forever bearing the stigma of defeat. Thus begins the holy war between teddy bears and unicorns. Meanwhile, Bluey and his team ventured into the Magic Forest with Sergeant Ironstrike and El Padre, encountering unfamiliar creatures and animals. While the others are forced to eat the distasteful porridge they had at camp, Bluey is feasting on the blueberry pie his father gave them before they depart. Snuggle complains that his feet are hurting from all the marching and takes off one of his boots. When he was taking a piss, a lizard-looking creature bites his foot. Tubby provided first aid and wrapped it in a bandage. As they continued marching, Snuggle collapsed and complained of insufferable pain. He shows them his swollen and revolting big toe when he takes off his boot. Iron Strike forces the team to take a break while they treat Snuggle's infected foot. While Bluey is adoring the flowers, he hears a noise and finds a herd of colorful glowworms. Iron Strike commends Bluey and claims they will have a party, but El Padre opposes, claiming their sacred book forbids it. El Padre explains that colored meats are the fruit of the devil. Iron Strike grows so tired of his preaching that he goes crazy and scares him by cutting his face with a knife. As El Padre retreats to his tent, Iron Strike asks him where his so-called god was when he was hurting him. That night, the teddy bears ate the glowworms, which turned out to be hallucinogenic. Everyone was hallucinating when suddenly, the older brother of the Cuddly Wuddly twins walked into the forest alone. His twin chases after him, but when a giant glowworm tries to attack him, he cuts it up with a knife. The next day, they wake up with a bad hangover from last night's party. Tubby quickly informs Iron Strike that the Cuddly Wuddly twins are missing. They promptly searched for them, but were horrified to find one of the twins dead, which they discovered was killed by a knife. They soon find the other twin hung himself after realizing that he killed his brother while he was intoxicated and hallucinating. Iron Strike is shocked and El Padre blames him for not listening to his warnings. They continued their mission and eventually arrived at camp, but were horrified to discover the entire Lone Owl group dead with their guts all over the place. El Padre claims this is the work of the unicorns, which he describes as ruthless. Coco wonders who they're fighting against, as they have not seen a single unicorn yet, but find their kind slaughtered in the middle of the forest. Seeing the horrific scene, Iron Strike claims they will also soon be dead, and the fear starts to spread among them. Even Snuggle isn't doing well, and his infected leg is worsening. Coco boldly steps up and cuts Snuggle's leg off with his bolo, to which he screams in agony. That night they held a funeral and burned the bodies of their comrades. Meanwhile, Maria continues to search for her mother when she runs into another baby unicorn, and they play catch. When it was getting dark, the unicorn's mother told her it was time to go and suggested Maria not wander around at night as the forest can be dangerous. She asks her to join them but insists on looking for her mother. That night, she is by the lake when a bright light radiates from her horn, and she finds herself in a mystical place to briefly meet her mother. Maria worries about what to do without her, but her mother claims that nature is their true mother. Her mother explains that they get nourishment from nature, and that it gets nourishment from them, so they need to protect the forest. She then tells Maria that she loves her and should be brave before she disappears. Later, Maria's mother was on the dark side of the forest, where simians watched from atop the trees. With nothing to feed in a barren forest, a bright light radiates from her horn, and life returns to the forest. Meanwhile, Coco leads the team when they come upon her and shoots arrows from afar. They quickly surrounded and overwhelmed her with their numbers when Coco shot an arrow to deliver the final blow that killed her. Suddenly, a bright light appeared from above, alerting the other unicorns. The bears start to panic, hearing stomping on the ground, worried that the enemy will come to find them. A group of unicorns quickly charged at them, impaled and ran them over. When Tubby almost got run over, Bluey pushed him aside, to which Snuggle ended up being impaled. Seeing the casualties from their side, El Padre walks up and lures the enemy to him. He pulls out a grenade he picked up from camp and blows them all up, saving the others. Tubby, Bluey, and Coco were the only survivors, and they quickly fled from the battle. Coco asks for a break, struggling to keep up with his injuries. Confident that he won't survive, Bluey insists they leave him behind, but when Tubby refuses, Bluey stabs Coco in the heart. That night, Bluey builds a fire and feeds on Coco's corpse, to which Tubby leaves, despising his brother for what he did. While staring at the moon, Bluey was reminded of the time they were born. He and Tubby were always together, even when inside their mother's womb. When Tubby came out first, Bluey felt alone and abandoned, describing it to be the worst moment of his life. When he finally came out, he immediately grew jealous of Tubby, who he felt had gained the favor of their mother. Tubby ventures deeper into the forest alone and scavenges for food. When he hears noises nearby, he suspects it is Bluey, who tosses a grilled frog when he complains of hunger. They started arguing, and the fight escalated into a brawl. Bluey accuses him of being a manipulator, but Tubby claims that he is a murderer. Bluey remembers how growing up, Tubby had always been closer to their mother. On her deathbed, she made Tubby promise to take care of her brother no matter what, to which Bluey overhears in the hall. Later that night, Bluey wakes up and finds his mother's hat in the forest. He follows it through a bush and up the stairs to where he finds himself in his room in their old home. He has always been jealous of Tubby, who was always with their mother and felt left out. One time, when their mother asks him to bring her lemonade, Bluey pours poison, which kills her. He immediately regretted it as soon as she drank it, but it was already done. The next day, Tubby finds the river and claims they can follow it out of the forest. They were thrilled to discover that the place was overflowing with blueberries, which they quickly feasted upon. After they have had their fill, Bluey wakes up to take a piss when he sees unicorns by the cliff. His rage takes over him, and he shoots an arrow at the unicorn's leg, to which he then charges at it with a knife. The baby unicorn returns to help her mother, and he impales Bluey and pushes him off the cliff. Bluey falls into the ravine, breaking his head against the cliff and into the river. Tubby runs to search in the river, but he can't find Bluey and quickly assumes he is dead. Nearby the military camp, soldiers were patrolling the area when they found a half-dead Bluey washed up at the river. They quickly took him back to the hospital, where he was being nursed back to health. Later, the high-ranking commanders come to visit to talk to him. Colonel Otto thanked him for his service and offered him a lieutenant position in the army. He claims that the military needs a symbol like him. When Bluey worries about what others would think of his scarred face, Captain Snout gives him a panda mask that he can use to cover his face. Looking back, Bluey wanted to end the unicorns to become the most powerful being in the world. Meanwhile, Tubby has continued to stay in the forest, taking only what he needs. He later returns to a cave behind a waterfall, nursing the unicorn that Bluey attacked back to health. Bluey quickly makes a name for himself at camp, and rumors go around about his supposed achievements. People started to look up to him, who had dedicated his life to the war. Colonel Otto is pleased that their plan to create a false hero worked. Little did they know that he was going to be their biggest threat. When Bluey suggested burning the forest, the commanders refused, worried they'd lose their power after the war ended. Bluey claims that the forest is hell and not the promised paradise. When they don't see eye to eye, Bluey walks out and instigates a coup, sending his men to kill them. With the officers dead, Bluey assumes control and mobilizes the army. The time has come for the war to come to an end finally. Bluey orders his men to raze the forest while the others fortify their camps with barbed wire and a moat. The unicorns took the fire as hostility and prepared for war. One of the unicorns suggests asking the simians for help, but their leader claims they would never join them. She explains that they are unlike the animals in the forest, who worship an idol that is not good for nature. The fire even reached the old church where the simians go to worship. Worried that the forest will be destroyed, the unicorns ride out to confront their enemy. Tubby runs after Maria, who joins the other unicorns in the war. He worries for her safety when he discovers the bears have decided to go on a full-out war with the unicorns. The unicorns run into the battlefield, past the traps, and the arrows that try to stop them. They marched on and fought them head-on despite their overwhelming numbers. Even when they tried to corner them, the unicorns fought back, resulting in a harrowing number of casualties from both sides. Bluey orders his men to bring out the cannon, which he used to take them out. Maria runs up the cliff to stop the cannon, but gets caught in the explosion. Furious, Tubby throws a torch that blows up the gunpowder barrels and destroys the cannon. The battlefield was dyed red with the blood of the dead from both sides. Tubby tried to run to Maria's side, but when Bluey came out unscathed, he wanted to stop him from hurting her. When he doesn't recognize him, Bluey takes off his mask, and the brothers reunite. Tubby felt terrible after all the pain Bluey had to endure, and the two embraced. When Maria screams in pain, Tubby quickly runs to her side, which irked Bluey that he chose her over him. In his frustration, he picks up a rock and smashes Tubby's head in a fit of rage. Bluey then approaches Maria and stabs her in the neck. Hoping to fulfill the prophecy as foretold, Bluey drinks her blood as the last standing unicorn. Suddenly, he starts coughing up blood as if he was poisoned. Maria then melts, revealing to be the formless monster that the simians worshipped at the old church. It swallowed up both Tubby and Bluey, which later then transformed into a human being. As it walks the bloodied battlefield, the simians come down from the trees and follow him. At last, the monster transforms into the godlike creature foretold and leads the simians as the world's new rulers. Thank you for watching. Check out these other videos, and make sure to subscribe and tap the bell to be notified about our latest videos. See you next time.